Beneath the turbulent surface of the East China Sea, off the coast of Japan's westernmost island, lies a profound enigma. For centuries, local fishermen spoke of legends, of palaces and great structures lost to the depths long ago. These were dismissed as mere folklore, the fanciful tales of sailors staring too long into the abyss. But in 1986, a discovery was made that would challenge our understanding of history and the capabilities of ancient people. Something was down there, something massive, geometric, and seemingly impossible for its supposed age and location. This is the story of the Yonaguni Monument, a submerged structure that blurs the line between geology and archaeology. Is it a breathtaking, yet entirely natural rock formation? A freak of nature sculpted by currents and seismic activity? Or is it something more, the remnants of a lost city, a testament to a prehistoric civilization we never knew existed? The debate has raged for decades, dividing scientists, geologists, and historians from around the globe. Join us as we dive deep into one of the world's most compelling underwater mysteries. The year was 1986. Kihachiro Aratake, a local dive tour operator, was scouting for new locations to observe hammerhead sharks. He ventured into an area off the island's southern coast, a place not typically frequented by divers. Descending into the depths, he expected to find reefs and marine life. What he found instead was utterly astonishing. Rising from the seabed was a colossal structure of stepped monoliths with vast, flat terraces and impossibly sharp edges. It was immense, measuring nearly 50 meters long and 20 meters wide. It looked like a sunken pyramid. Aratake was stunned. The lines were too straight, the angles too perfect. It defied his understanding of natural formations. He documented his findings, taking photographs and measurements, his mind racing with the implications of what he was seeing. News of the discovery quickly spread, attracting attention from marine geologist Masaaki Kimura of the University of the Ryukyu. Kimura would soon become the monument's most vocal and dedicated proponent, convinced it was man-made. Thus began the Great Debate. The initial shock of discovery gave way to a decades-long scientific and historical controversy. Let's examine the main structure itself. Known simply as the monument, it is a masterpiece of perplexing geometry. It rises from a depth of 25 meters, a single, massive block of sandstone connected to the underlying rock mass. Its most striking features are the series of enormous, flat terraces like a grand staircase for giants. These steps are wide and consistent, many with sharp, near-perfect right angles that seem to defy natural erosion. One side of the monument is a sheer cliff face, dropping vertically for almost the entire height of the structure. The sheer scale is difficult to comprehend. It's longer than an Olympic swimming pool and as tall as a 5-story building. Advocates for the man-made theory argue that no known natural process creates such a complex combination of features. They point to the symmetry and the deliberate-looking arrangement of its plains and terraces as primary evidence. Could powerful ocean currents and tectonic activity really carve something so intricate and seemingly purposeful? The main monument alone is enough to spark debate, but the surrounding area holds even more curious formations. Beyond the main pyramid, the site is littered with other features that fuel the artificial origin theory. One of the most compelling is a feature known as the Grand Staircase, separate from the main terrace steps. These steps are enormous, each several meters wide, ascending a steep incline with remarkable regularity. They appear too uniform, too purposefully placed to be the result of random geological fracturing. Then there is the Loop Road, a path that encircles a large portion of the main monument. This road is bordered by what appear to be drainage channels or gutters, a feature common in ancient construction. Proponents like Kimura argue these details are too specific, too functional, to be coincidental. A road suggests transit. Gutters suggest water management. These imply design, planning, and purpose. Geologists, however, maintain that such features can be formed by erosion along natural fault lines in the rock. But when combined with the other formations, the case for an artificial city becomes increasingly tantalizing. The curiosities don't end with roads and stairs. The site also contains what some have dubbed the stadium. This formation features a large, flat central area, surrounded by what look like tiered stone seats or viewing platforms. The resemblance to a modern sports arena is uncanny, though on a scale befitting the rest of the monument. It feels like a place of assembly, a location designed for gatherings or ceremonies, now silent beneath the waves. Perhaps even more famous is a nearby formation known as the Turtle, a massive carved stone figure. This separate sculpture appears to depict a giant sea turtle, an animal of great significance in local Japanese folklore. For believers, this is not a coincidence. It is zoomorphic architecture, a clear sign of intelligent, artistic design. Skeptics, however, see it as a classic case of pareidolia, the human tendency to see familiar patterns in random shapes. They argue that a combination of erosion and imagination is responsible for creating the turtle and stadium. Yet, the sheer number of these coincidences continues to build a compelling circumstantial case for an ancient city. To understand the controversy, we must listen to the other side of the story, the geological explanation. Many scientists, including geologist Robert Schoch, argue that the monument is a natural phenomenon, albeit a spectacular one. The key to their argument lies in the type of rock. The monument is composed of medium to fine-grained sandstone. Sandstone has a natural tendency to break along parallel bedding planes, creating flat, straight surfaces. Yonaguni Island is also in a highly seismic region, prone to earthquakes that can fracture rock with incredible force. Geologists argue that earthquakes could have sheared off huge sections of rock, creating the large, flat, vertical faces. Then, powerful ocean currents, for which the area is famous, would have eroded these fractured pieces over millennia. This combination of rock type, tectonics, and erosion can create features that appear deceptively artificial. Schoch points out that the entire monument is carved from a single piece of rock, not assembled from separate blocks. This, he argues, is more characteristic of a natural formation that has been shaped in place than a constructed building. A crucial point in the man-made argument is the presence of what appear to be tool marks. Professor Kimura has documented numerous locations with depressions and holes that he claims were made by primitive tools. He suggests these are wedge marks, where ancient builders would have inserted wedges to split the rock with precision. Some carvings seem almost pictographic, with one area allegedly showing a face or an animal-like figure. These marks are small details on a massive canvas, but for proponents, they are the smoking gun of human intervention. However, the geological camp has a counter-explanation for these marks as well. They argue that the tool marks are simply natural scratches and scour marks left by strong underwater currents dragging rocks. The circular holes, they suggest, could be potholes created by stones being swirled in an eddy or current. Even the carvings are dismissed as pareidolia, similar to seeing faces in the clouds or on the surface of Mars. So, what appears as deliberate carving to one expert is just the random artistry of the ocean to another. Perhaps the most mind-bending aspect of the Yonaguni mystery is its proposed age. If the structure is man-made, it had to have been built on dry land before sea levels rose. The end of the last ice age saw a dramatic rise in sea levels across the globe. Based on current models, the land where the monument sits was last above water around 10,000 years ago. This date is staggering. It places the construction of this massive complex thousands of years before the pyramids of Giza. It would even predate the earliest known megalithic structures like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. At that time, mainstream archaeology suggests humans were primarily nomadic hunter-gatherers, living in small, primitive settlements. The idea that such a society could organize and execute a stoneworking project of this magnitude is revolutionary. This is a major reason why many mainstream scientists are so skeptical. It would require a complete rewrite of early human history. For them, the geological explanation, however complex, is more plausible than a lost, super-ancient civilization. So, where does that leave us? After decades of research, the Yonaguni Monument remains an unsolved mystery. On one hand, we have a collection of features that, when viewed together, paint a compelling picture of a man-made structure. The sharp angles, the terraces, the stairs, and the surrounding buildings all suggest intelligent design. On the other hand, we have a solid geological explanation for how these features could have formed naturally. The type of rock, the seismic activity, and the powerful currents provide a plausible, if less exciting, alternative. No definitive artifacts, like pottery or metal tools, have been found to conclusively prove human habitation. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Could it be a natural formation that was modified by ancient people? A natural quarry that was used as a ceremonial site, enhanced to better suit their purposes? Until more evidence is uncovered, the monument will keep its secrets, locked in a deep, watery silence. A silent testament to either the incredible power of nature or the forgotten ingenuity of our distant ancestors. Professor Kimura has spent years meticulously mapping the site, identifying over a dozen specific structures he believes are artificial. He points to two pillar-like rocks standing close together, which he has named the twin megaliths. He also identified a triangular depression with two large holes, which he calls the triangle pool. Kimura believes these are not random. He sees a coherent architectural plan connecting these distinct features. Another intriguing feature is a stone relief that Kimura claims is a carving of an animal, possibly a horse or bull. While heavily eroded, he argues the outline is clear and intentional, another piece of zoomorphic art. Skeptics counter that these are all just more examples of pareidolia and selective interpretation of natural forms. They argue that finding a triangle or pillars in a massive, fractured rock bed is statistically likely. Kimura also discovered what he believes to be ancient characters or symbols carved into the stone. These Yonaguni glyphs are highly controversial, as most geologists see them as simple, natural scratches. Beyond the geology and archaeology, there's another layer to this mystery: the local folklore and legends. The Ryukyu Islands, including Yonaguni, have a rich oral tradition filled with tales of the sea. For generations, islanders have spoken of a Nirai Kanai, a mythical undersea paradise from which all life originates. Could the Yonaguni Monument be the physical inspiration for these long-standing myths of a sunken palace? There are also local stories of a great tsunami that devastated the islands in the distant past. Some speculate that if a city did exist here, a cataclysmic event could have been responsible for its demise. Geological evidence does support the occurrence of major tsunamis in this region's history. Is it possible that the myths are a form of cultural memory, preserving the story of a real event? Skeptics would argue that myths of sunken cities are common worldwide and don't require a real-world basis. Yet, the alignment of local legend with this specific, tangible discovery is, at the very least, a remarkable coincidence. To better understand Yonaguni, it helps to compare it to other, undisputed underwater archaeological sites. Sites like Herakleion in Egypt or Pavlopetri in Greece are confirmed sunken cities. At these sites, archaeologists have found countless artifacts, pottery, coins, statues, and clear building foundations. The structures are clearly assembled from individual blocks, with streets, houses, and temples laid out in a recognizable way. This is the smoking gun evidence that is conspicuously absent from the Yonaguni site. There are no confirmed pottery shards, no metal objects, and no loose, dressed stones that would indicate construction. Proponents argue that the extreme age and powerful currents could have washed all such evidence away over 10,000 years. However, this makes the claim impossible to verify through traditional archaeological methods, creating a frustrating deadlock. Yonaguni's monolithic nature, carved from the bedrock itself, also sets it apart from these other block-built cities. If it is artificial, it represents a completely different type of construction from any other known ancient site, on land or sea. The environment around Yonaguni is an active participant in this story. The Kuroshio Current, one of the strongest in the world, sweeps past the island. This constant, powerful flow of water has an immense erosive force, capable of shaping rock over millennia. For geologists, this current is a key tool in their explanation for the monument's seemingly artificial shapes. The current acts like liquid sandpaper, smoothing flat surfaces and deepening any existing cracks or fissures in the sandstone. However, the current also presents a challenge to exploration. Diving here can be treacherous and is limited to experienced individuals. This difficulty has limited the amount of research that can be done, leaving many areas of the site underexplored. The site is also famous for its migratory hammerhead sharks, which was what brought Kihachiro Aratake here in the first place. This vibrant marine life adds another layer of beauty and mystery to the location, a city of stone now inhabited by creatures of the sea. Some have whimsically suggested the sharks are the modern-day guardians of this ancient, forgotten place. The powerful, dynamic environment is both a potential creator of the monument and a keeper of its secrets. Let's revisit the most striking feature, the terraces. Geologists have a specific term for how these can form naturally: terrace-forming. This process occurs in sedimentary rocks like sandstone, which are formed in horizontal layers over millions of years. These layers, or beds, can have slightly different hardness and resistance to erosion. When a block of this rock is tilted by tectonic activity, the layers are exposed to the elements at an angle. Erosion then works faster on the softer layers, carving them out and leaving the harder layers protruding. This can create a natural staircase effect that looks remarkably similar to the terraces at Yonaguni. Skeptics argue this process, combined with vertical fractures from earthquakes, perfectly explains the monument's overall shape. However, proponents fire back that the terraces at Yonaguni are too large and too consistent for this process. They also question why this process would create so many other artificial-looking features like the road and stadium in one small area. The steps remain a central battleground in the debate, a feature that both sides claim as key evidence. With such a potentially significant discovery, what is the official stance of the Japanese government? Officially, Japan's Agency for Cultural Affairs has not recognized the Yonaguni Monument as a man-made cultural property. Neither has the Okinawa prefectural government, which has jurisdiction over the island and its surrounding waters. They maintain that there is not yet sufficient evidence to prove the structures are artificial. This lack of official recognition means the site does not receive government protection or funding for research as a cultural heritage site. Most mainstream academic institutions in Japan and abroad also lean towards the natural formation theory. The radical implications for rewriting history make the barrier for proof extremely high. However, the local town of Yonaguni has embraced the monument as a vital part of its identity and tourism industry. Dive tours to the monument are a major draw, and the town unofficially recognizes its importance, regardless of its origin. This creates a fascinating split between official skepticism and local celebration of the underwater wonder. Let's indulge in speculation for a moment. If the monument is man-made, who were these builders? They would have existed 10,000 years ago, during what is known as the Jomon period in Japanese prehistory. The Jomon people were traditionally thought to be simple hunter-gatherers, but recent discoveries show they were more complex. They created some of the world's earliest pottery and lived in semi-permanent settlements for thousands of years. Could a branch of this culture, living on a then larger landmass, have developed stoneworking skills far beyond what we know? Some theorists propose a lost Pacific civilization, a mother culture that influenced various peoples across the ocean. This hypothetical culture, sometimes called the Mu civilization, is a popular but entirely unsubstantiated theory. Yonaguni is often cited as the primary piece of physical evidence for the existence of such a lost world. Without more evidence, this remains in the realm of fiction, but it highlights the questions Yonaguni forces us to ask. Could our understanding of the ancient past be fundamentally incomplete? Yonaguni suggests it's a possibility worth considering. Let's summarize the case for artificial. Exhibit A, the sheer impossible geometry of the main monument. Exhibit B, the grand staircase, with its massive uniform steps that appear deliberately carved for ascent. Exhibit C, the loop road, a defined pathway complete with what appear to be functional drainage channels. Exhibit D, the stadium, a structure that mirrors amphitheaters built by known civilizations thousands of years later. Exhibit E, the turtle, a distinct zoomorphic sculpture that seems too specific to be a coincidental rock formation. Exhibit F, the alleged tool marks and wedge holes, suggesting a deliberate rock splitting and shaping process. Exhibit G, the sheer concentration of anomalies. Why would nature create so many almost artificial structures in one place? Exhibit H, the alignment with local legends of Nirai Kanai, a mythical sunken palace, suggesting a cultural memory. When viewed as a whole, the circumstantial evidence for a man-made origin becomes incredibly compelling. It paints a picture that is hard to dismiss, even in the face of strong geological counterarguments. Now, let's review the case for natural. Exhibit A, the rock itself. Sandstone is known to fracture in straight lines. Exhibit B, the monument is not built from blocks. It is one continuous piece of bedrock, which is characteristic of natural formations. Exhibit C, the location in a highly seismic zone. Earthquakes provide the force needed to create large vertical fractures. Exhibit D, the powerful Kuroshio current, a relentless erosive force that scours and shapes the seabed. Exhibit E, the complete lack of supporting artifacts. No pottery, no tools, no bones, no signs of life. Exhibit F, the existence of similar, though less spectacular, geometric formations in other parts of the world, like the Giant's Causeway. Exhibit G, pareidolia. The turtle and stadium are likely just our brains finding familiar patterns in random shapes. Exhibit H, the staggering age. The idea of a 10,000-year-old megalithic culture contradicts the entire archaeological record. The geological explanation requires no rewriting of history and relies on known, observable natural processes. For many scientists, this makes it the most logical and plausible conclusion, despite the monument's alluring appearance. Debates aside, to experience Yonaguni is to be humbled by its scale and silenced by its presence. To drift along the face of the main wall is to feel impossibly small against its sheer vertical expanse. Light from the surface dances and plays across the stone terraces, creating an ever-shifting cathedral of shadows. Schools of fish move like clouds through the silent stone corridors and across the vast platforms. There is a profound sense of peace and antiquity here, a feeling of being in a place outside of time. Whether carved by man or by nature, it is a place that inspires wonder and deep reflection. It forces us to confront the boundaries of our knowledge and the power of the world around us. The questions it poses are perhaps more important than any definitive answer could ever be. It is a geological marvel, an archaeological puzzle, and a diver's dream, all rolled into one. Ultimately, the monument's greatest value may lie in its power to ignite our imagination and curiosity. We have presented the evidence, the theories, and the counter-arguments. Now, the decision is yours. Do you see the hand of an ancient, forgotten civilization working stone with unimaginable skill? A culture that rose and fell before the dawn of recorded history, leaving only this single, enigmatic clue? Does the collection of stairs, roads, and sculptures represent too many coincidences to be ignored? Or do you see the awesome impersonal power of nature at work over countless millennia? A perfect storm of geology, tectonics, and erosion creating a masterpiece of natural architecture? Is the lack of artifacts and the monolithic nature of the structure the definitive proof of a natural origin? The mystery of Yonaguni is a mirror. What you see in its depths often reflects your own perspective on history and possibility. Natural wonder or lost city? The ocean holds the final answer, and it is not telling. Share your verdict in the comments below. What do you believe is hiding in the waters off Yonaguni?